With Washington and the rest of the nation in the grips of what feels like constantly intensifying partisanship, my next guest says that he has a prescription to turn down the temperature. Longtime Democratic strategist Lanny Davis says that plan is out and lays that plan out in his new book, Finding the Third Way: Lessons in the Politics of Civility from My Journey Through History. And Lanny Davis joins me now. Lanny, it's great to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you. And when I hear the title and the word civility is mentioned, everyone says, what? What civility?
well, what is the civility and what is this third way? And congratulations on your book.
So inspired by my work for President Clinton, I watched him negotiate and get along with Newt Gingrich, who wasn't exactly his best friend. He ended up inheriting multi-billion-dollar deficits and on his last day after 2 terms had a surplus because he was able to find a third way with Newt Gingrich. They didn't personally like each other, but they found common ground, which is balancing the budget is the moral way of governing. Because if you don't balance the budget, you're borrowing and then letting your children pay the tab.
Let me read a little portion of your book and discuss it with you. You say, quote, "We must find a better way to win over voters who have abandoned us than shaming people who don't agree with us. We can and should oppose politicians like Donald Trump when they challenge democracy and our Constitution, but we can do so and still respect the vast majority of those who voted for him." Why is that the right path forward? And do you think there's a politician right now in your mind who embodies that approach?
Well, yes, there are several governors that we have that embody that approach because they're elected in Trump states. Take Andy Beshear in Kentucky. So, of course, there is a third way, and the current way is either 100% you're terrible or I'm right, and accusations. The Clinton way, my third way, is find common ground and respect the differences. So we can distinguish between Trump's voters, many of whom are friends of mine, and Democrats who voted for Trump, and the man himself whose conduct and character I have serious problems with.
But, Lanny, what do you say to voters who say this is such a uniquely divided moment? You have family feuds at holidays in ways that we have not seen before. How can people break through this gridlock to do what you're saying, to find that common ground when they're not even talking to each other, giving each other a chance in so many instances?
So the short answer is listen first before you accuse and ask questions and see if you can find common ground. That's the short answer. And my one example of many is the Iran war. If you ask a Trump voter enough times what's bothering you about Donald Trump, I know you voted for him. There's going to be an answer that I will say, I agree with you on that. Let's find common ground on that issue, such as the Iran war.
You talk about your experience at Yale Law School, which you write about distinguishing between liberals and conservatives. And a professor named Alexander Bickel, let me read a little bit. You described him as conservative. You say, over the years, this confusion about the most accurate label to describe Professor Bickel or others taught me an important lesson. The answer, I eventually concluded, is that it's better to avoid all labels if possible and instead to rely on facts. It also follows that steering clear of simplistic labels is the first step toward avoiding absolutist judgments about which side is good and which side is evil. Has this society become too obsessed with labels, and how do we break out of it?
First of all, I have to say, whoever wrote that's pretty good. Labels, identity politics, especially in the Democratic Party, where everyone has to have a cultural or ethnic identity, and then you have to... The answer is talk to each other and listen and respect. I mentioned to you earlier, I have lots of friends who voted for Donald Trump and said, I don't like Trump, I don't like his behavior, I don't like a lot, but you guys don't give me a better alternative. That's a central reason why I wrote the book, because in the Clinton White House, we didn't know what was conservative or what was liberal. Is balancing the budget conservative or liberal? It's a label. I know that asking our children to pay the bills for what we're spending today using a credit card is wrong. And that's the third way.
Do you think Bill Clinton, if he were in office today, would be able to break through this current gridlock, which is unique to what he experienced?
I have no doubt, but it's not just because I've been a friend of his for so long, and of course, even longer with his wife, Hillary. He had a method And he proved it with Newt Gingrich. They were on opposite sides, and it was quite polarized when Gingrich took over the House of Representatives. He started out by finding something in common with Gingrich, which is, as governor of Arkansas, he had to balance the budget every year. That was his starting point, was being a fiscal conservative. But on social programs, he was a liberal. Even though I'm supposed to use the word progressive, I don't know why Franklin Roosevelt called himself a liberal. So what he did was to say, yes, we're a liberal, but we're reformed liberals. We have a but after social programs and government programs. The but is individual responsibility and community responsibility. You don't get government assistance unless you take individual responsibility.
Lanny Davis, congratulations on the new book. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.